Clearance between the chassis and the gearbox is tight when the gearbox is moved back towards the chassis. This can make removal problematic. You might need to remove the starter motor. There are 2 bolts to undo. The following clip shows the lifting position for a strop around the gearbox. Use a single strop. Set the point of balance around here. This particular clutch installation uses a reline clutch and reground flywheel. Relining a clutch is considerably cheaper than buying a new OEM clutch, especially if you're prone to wearing out clutches. The clutch and flywheel must also be in a condition worthy of refurbishment. However, if cost is not a factor, buying a new OEM clutch, throw-out bearing and flywheel is the way to go. Clean the area where the flywheel bolts to and clean the threads of oil and dirt. Same with the gearbox. Clean all the shafts and around the bearing and the gearbox itself. There'll be a lot of dust and build up from the clutch. You can put the flywheel on. The flywheel bolts, brand new, they have a blue sealant on them. Put Loctite over the top of this as well. I'm using Loctite 243. Number the flywheel bolts in order from 1 to 8 and torque them to 70 Newton meters each with some thread stop system 52A43 or Loctite 243. We'll do the same trick. Flywheel bolts are all in with Loctite and torqued to 70 Newton meters. Make sure you have something to hold the flywheel in place because it'll turn anti-clockwise as you torque them up. When installing the clutch, make sure the R reference number aligns with the R number on the flywheel. Once the flywheel bolts are torqued to spec, it would be a good idea to clock the flywheel face as close to the edge of the flywheel as possible. This ensures that you know that the flywheel is as true as it should be. I've heard suggestions of 0.15mm run out maximum. If you're within a few hundredths, let's say the 2 to 3 hundredths movement as the flywheel moves around, you're looking pretty good. Clutch is on and all the M6 cap screws are torqued up, not to 70 Newton meters. We've gone with between 15 and 19 Newton meters. The alignment shaft pops out easily. The problem with the clutch pack misalignment might be understood a little easier with this analogy using 3 DVDs and a DVD spindle. The DVDs represent the clutch pack, and the plastic spigot in the center of the spindle can be thought of as the clutch alignment tool, or ultimately where the splined gearbox input shaft goes through the splines in the clutch pack to slide into the pilot bearing at the center of the flywheel. When the clutch is calibrated and balanced from factory, the 2 friction discs inside the clutch align almost perfectly, and the clutch alignment tool goes in easily. So too should the gearbox input shaft when it comes to fitting the gearbox in place. This here is shown by all 3 DVDs being relatively concentric to each other, and the DVDs go into the spindle just fine. However, with the reline clutch, there is the chance that the alignment of the friction discs are not concentric. Only a small misalignment in tenths of a millimeter is enough to cause problems. In the example here, if the center DVD is not concentric to the others, the DVDs won't go onto the spigot. In the case of the clutch, once the fingers on the clutch pack are released, it takes a massive amount of force to slide the clutch discs concentrically into alignment, and this can't really be done without depressing the fingers on the clutch, just like if you were pushing the clutch pedal in, freeing the clutch facings from pressing against the flywheel and pressure plate inside the clutch. Pressing all these fingers in by hand requires too much force, so this is where the tool comes in. Once the tool depresses the fingers, the clutch discs are free and the standard clutch alignment tool can be pushed through the center of the large friction disc alignment tool, while it is still in place, holding the fingers down. This allows the friction discs to become concentric and ultimately making way for the gearbox input shaft when fitting the gearbox.